Here's an example of how to make a pie chart. We have classes here that show the hair color of students in a Math 107 class. We're going to need to calculate degrees to help measure the angles, and we'll need to calculate percentages to label the slices on the pie chart. To calculate degrees, we need to take the frequency of the class and divide by the total frequency, and then multiply that result by 360 degrees. So we'll need to know what the total of these frequencies are. 6 plus 8 plus 12 plus 4. Total frequency of 30. So to calculate the number of degrees for the black section on the pie chart, we'll start with the frequency of black, 6, divided by the total frequency, 30, times 360, since there's 360 degrees in a circle, and that comes out to be 72 degrees. 6 divided by 30 times 360. We'll do the same thing for blonde. Take the frequency divided by the total times 360. So that section of the pie chart will measure 96 degrees. For brown, we'll take the frequency of 12 divided by the 30 times the 360, 144 degrees. And lastly, for red, 4 divided by 30 times 360, 48 degrees. It's not a bad idea to check and make sure those add up to 360. 360 is the total number of degrees in a circle. Percentage is calculated in a similar fashion. We want the frequency divided by the total, but this time times 100 for a total of 100%. So for black, when we label the percentage, we'll take 6 divided by 30 times 100, 20%. And for blonde, 8 divided by 30 times 100. Rounding the percentage to a whole number is usually a good way to go. So that one was 27%. Now for brown, 12 divided by 30 times 100. 40%. And lastly for red, 4 divided by 30 times 100. 13%. The total this time should be 100%. Let's just check and make sure. Now that we have the degrees and percents calculated, next we'll want to draw the 4 slices of pie. So we need a circle, we need to know where the center of the circle is, and we need to start by drawing one radius from the center to the edge of the circle. That'll give us a starting point when we measure 72 degrees for the black section of the pie chart. To use the protractor, then we want to line the center up with the hole or notch or crosshairs here in the center of the flat side. And we also like to line up the line we drew with the line on the protractor that's pointing out towards the 0 mark on the scale. Once that's all lined up, we'll start counting around from 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. To get those last 2 degrees, we can go out to the edge and check out the smaller markings. Once the angle is measured and marked, we can move the protractor and use the flat side to draw a straight line from the center to the edge of the circle, pointing towards that mark we just made. So we'll label that slice of pie black, 20%. The new line we drew will now become our baseline, so we'll spin this around a little bit. Again, line up the center with the hole or notch or crosshairs, and the line we just drew is our new baseline. This time for blonde, we want to go around 96 degrees. So on the scale here, starting at 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, all the way to 90. And then to get those last 6, we'll go out to the outer edge, make a mark about 6 past the 90. And line that mark up with our center. And section off another slice of pie by connecting the center with the edge of the circle headed towards that dot we just drew. So this section represents the students in the class with blonde hair. And that was 27% of the students. The most recent line we drew is our new baseline, so let's spin the paper around again. Line up the center of the protractor again. And measure around this time to 144 degrees for brown. So all the way past 90, 140, then out to the edge to get that last 4 degrees measured. Once that's marked, we'll move our protractor, use the flat edge to draw from the center circle to the edge, pointing towards that mark. And we'll label that. That represents the students with brown hair, which was 40% of the class. This last section should make up the remaining 48 degrees. Be a great idea to line it back up. The line we just drew to finish the brown section is going to be our new baseline. Get the center lined up and see if it looks like it's pointing about towards 48 degrees. It looks like we're right on track. So that last section will represent students with red hair, which was 13% of the class. The last piece of pie should end where the first piece of pie began. In other words, all 360 degrees should be accounted for. There should not be an empty section. Sometimes degrees and percents are confused. If you happen to measure the percents by accident, then you would have a big empty piece of pie. One last thing to finish off this chart, let's put a title on it. These values represented hair colors of Math 107 students. There we go.